And tonight's winner, just like A. Philip Randolph and Huey Newton, was not motivated by justice in another world, but justice in this world. From when she went to Atlanta when she was 16 years old to attend her first Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee meeting, to her whole career in the civil rights movement, this has been something that's been going on for her whole life. She was there in 1965 in the march from Selma to Montgomery for voting rights for African Americans. And last night we heard some advice from a panel of activists about what to do and what not to do. And tonight's winner, well, I can tell you that tonight's winner did not always follow all of that advice. One of the pieces of advice that got offered up last night was don't get arrested. So on March 7th in 1965, as the march came to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and there was really abhorrent beating and violence that occurred that day. Tonight's winner was actually the first, and I understand only person to actually get arrested on that day. And there's this amazing video that the Smithsonian put together that is on YouTube of tonight's winner talking about her experiences. And it's just talking, it's a flow of like, oh yeah, we were in Danville, Virginia, and we got arrested. And then we were in Natchez, Mississippi, and we got arrested. And we were in Albany, Georgia, and we got arrested. Indeed, tonight's winner can give you a lot of advice about what to do once you do get arrested. And she has literally stood up again and again in the face of unjust laws and systematic domestic terrorism directed at African Americans, physically forcing those who were trying to maintain the old order into facing their own brutality by dealing with her. And for me, the most important thing about tonight's winner is the crux of what drives her. And she said this to the Black believers at a meeting of theirs in Atlanta, which I see this as pretty much the best motivation for activism of any kind, which is just, if you don't do nothing, ain't nothing gonna happen. You can't count on a God to create justice, and you can't count on other people to create justice. But you can definitely count on tonight's winner to put her body and her work and her will towards creating justice, because she's been doing it all of her adult life. It is my profound honor to present to Annie Pearl Avery the Secular Student Alliance 2017 Backbone Award. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm going to say good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not really a speaker, but I'm a storyteller. It's easier for me to tell a story. When I was about 9 years old, I had an aunt, she was a great aunt. Her husband passed, and she lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And what happened is she didn't want to stay in the big house alone, and my other cousins, they were young adults then, and they were getting ready to go off to college. The men were getting ready to go into the armed services or whatever, and my mother had 4 of us, and I was the oldest, and my mother decided to share me with her. And I was about 9 years old, went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And one thing happens every time I come to Cincinnati. I think about my aunt and I had to change buses in Cincinnati. And you know, Cincinnati is the Mason-Dixie line for the South and the North. And 9 years old, it really didn't resonate with me what it was. And when we changed buses, the bus that we changed to continue on to Pittsburgh was empty when we got on it. So she says to me, you can sit anywhere you want. And I ran to the back of the bus and found me a seat. Now the thing is, why did I run to the back of the bus? Because I was programmed. There's no signs or anything, but I ran to the back of the bus because I was programmed to do that. And it took me years to really realize what she was saying. She was telling me I didn't have to sit at the back of the bus anymore. But I'm 9 years old and I'm excited. I'm just, I'm just taking off. And I stayed in Pittsburgh and went to elementary school there till I was about 13. And there I went to integrated school and stuff like that. But there was still a lot of segregation there. Although we could go any place we wanted to go. You could go to movies and restaurants or whatever, but there still was segregation. When we got out of school, all of the people that we went to school with, if they were white, they went their way and we went ours. Even if they lived down the street, we didn't have anything to do with each other until we went back to school. But at my age then, to understand all of this was, I wasn't able to comprehend or to put all this together. And then I had to go back to Alabama. Now, once I'm back in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, I'm back at the back of the bus, seeing movies secondhand. When the movies premiered in Birmingham, they all premiered at the white theaters first. And I was really frustrated and off key because I couldn't, I'm back at the back of the bus. I can't go to movies. I can't buy a hot dog. I'm all, I got all these restrictions on me now. Finally, I heard about I had heard about Reverend Shuttlesworth, but I hadn't ever met him at this point. And I heard about the Freedom Riders and the sit-ins in 1960, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. And I said, if they come to Birmingham, I'm going with them. So when I heard they were coming to Birmingham, I purchased a ticket to go from Birmingham to Montgomery on the bus. Well, when they got to Anniston, this is when the bus was firebombed. People were beaten and stuff like this. Matter of fact, one of my very good friends now, Diane Nash, who's still alive, and I talk to her often, on and off, because there's very few of us left alive now, so we talk to each other from time to time. And they finally put them on the bus and they got to Birmingham. When they got to Birmingham, my neighbor and I was going to go down, and she said, well, wait until my husband come home so he can take care of the children, and my baby, and I can go with you. And we walked about 19 blocks. And it was nothing to walk 19 blocks in 20 minutes or so. You'd be where, we did a lot of walking then. We didn't have a lot of cars and stuff like this. To walk downtown from where we live on 1st Street to 16th Street, or to 19th, I think it was 20th Street where the bus station was. To 20th Street, it didn't take that long. And as we were walking, she said to me, Reverend Shuttlesworth is my uncle. And she was just telling me somebody in her family was a part of the civil rights movement. And of course, Reverend Shuttlesworth wasn't that famous at the time. And we get to the bus station, and when we get to the bus station, she finally get bored and leave because there was a police line up at the Greyhound bus station. We couldn't get across, and I couldn't use my ticket. So I meddled around a little bit, and I met fellow by the name of Wilson Brown by Happiness. And I told Wilson, I said, I got my ticket and I'm ready to go. I want to go. So he said, well, you can't go. See, when I bought the ticket, I also bought something else to go with the ticket. I bought me a knife, and it was a cheap knife. I'm not sure. I think I might have paid 50 cents for it. I couldn't afford the 50 cents I paid for it, but I paid 50 cents for the knife because I thought I was going to need it if I was going to get on this bus. And Wilson said, you don't understand the concept of nonviolence. Well, I'd looked for the word in the dictionary, and that word was not in the dictionary at the time. And I told Wilson to explain it to me. And he said, well, that's when somebody hits you, you can't hit them back. I said, I don't think I want to do that. So I got a refund for my ticket. And I saw Wilson 2 times after that. The second time I saw him, he asked me that I want to go to Atlanta, Georgia, to a student nonviolent coordinating committee meeting. And I saw it as a threefold. Number one, I hadn't ever been to Atlanta before. And I was going to get the opportunity to go free. And another thing, I wanted to learn more about the civil rights movement and maybe be a part of it. So I left my knife at home, and everything is history after that. I went to Atlanta. I met Mr. James Foreman. I met Miss Ella Baker, and Miss Ella Baker was one of the very key people in our civil rights movement. They didn't give her credit for it because she was female. She was the one who organized SCLC. And when I met her, she had already contributed 25 years of her life to the civil rights movement, along with Miss Septima Clark. She went to Miss Baker went to Shaw University, and I had the opportunity to meet her, and she also organized SNCC, and she had problems with the male chauvinist thing at SCLC. So she pretty much stuck with the younger group. But anyway, I also met Julian Bond, John Lewis, a lot of people that you probably know about that are more noted than I am. But anyway, it changed my life. At least it changed the direction of my life. My life took a 180-degree turn in terms of what I was going to do, and I didn't know I was going to be doing this almost the rest of my life. But anyway, I ended up in being arrested in Albany, Georgia, Danville, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi, Birmingham, Selma. Matter of fact, I just gotten out of jail when I got arrested in Selma. I just gotten out of jail in Natchez, Mississippi. But anyway, if you'd like to ask me some questions, I'm really, really excited to get this award. I don't know how worthy I am of the award, but but I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, you can ask me questions.
Got a hand over there?
You have to talk loud now. Mother Nature, Father Time. I don't hear out of but one ear. You know, everything is moving slow now.
My question is, when you were fighting in the South and getting arrested over and over again, did you ever have this compelling feeling that you just wanted to leave it all and go back and start a normal life? Or what compelled you to keep fighting after getting arrested over and over again?
No, for one thing is, there were a lot of things I had not learned yet. See, it takes time to learn these things, the purpose. I was just doing what I thought I could contribute. I didn't have a degree in political science or whatever, you know. I I didn't have a master's degree. I wasn't a college student, but I contributed what I thought was worthy of getting involved, and that's what I did. And, you know, they used to tell me, said, well, you like it where it's hot, because I went to Selma, I think in 62 or 63, and it was dead there. So I left. So they were kidding me about I like it hot. You know.
Question in the back?
Do you see any parallels between the civil rights movement and what's going on right now with the Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, the Black Lives Matter movement is good, but the only thing they concentrate on pretty much is blacks getting killed by the police. I want to concentrate on blacks getting killed, period. Injustice all the way. Mostly, I have to concentrate mostly on blacks getting killed, because we are getting killed more rapidly than anyone else. And they're not all getting killed by just by a police gunning them down. Okay, is there anyone?
Yeah, over there, to your right.
Did you identify as a secular individual when you initially got started with the civil rights movement? And if not, where did you draw your motivation to take a stand?
Right there in Birmingham, when the Freedom Ride started and the sit-ins, that's when I decided that I wanted to get with them. And just like I said, I bought me a knife to go, but then I left the knife. I know in one of the stories that's written about me, they say I had a gun. I didn't have a gun. Couldn't afford a gun. I don't know. You know, I'm saying sometimes people write stuff and they really didn't know me. Whoever wrote that, I don't know. I didn't have a gun. I couldn't afford a gun. If we had guns, it was because people in the community gave us weapons. They said, do y'all have a gun? No, we don't have a gun. Well, here's a gun. But, you know, and most likely it was a rifle or something, you know. And we didn't know what, you know, I didn't know what to do with it, at least, for sure. Okay.
Can you talk about the importance of the youth movement within, of the students getting organized within the civil rights movement, as opposed to like some of the older organizations?
Well, the thing about the students is, I guess you can say in a way we didn't really have much to lose. See, it wasn't like we had a home, and some people had jobs and, you know, and stuff like this. School teachers or whatever, they had jobs and they didn't want to risk their jobs, and we really had nothing to lose. You know, what do you have? Nothing. You know, we don't own any car. We didn't own any cars, and we didn't have any outstanding bills. We hadn't got to that point yet, and I think that's part of the you know, feeling free to do some of these things that we wanted to do and participate in some of the things we wanted to participate in.
Yeah, over there.
So what lessons can students today who want to fight injustice learn from the movements of the civil rights movement?
Well, one thing for sure is, don't think you have all the answers or think you have the answer, because so far we haven't, or else we would have solved our problems by now. I had to learn the things that I learned. I had to learn tactics. I had to learn discipline, self-discipline in a lot in some of this by watching examples. And this wasn't always done in front of the camera. We didn't have cameras following us around. We a lot of times when we got arrested or whatever, it would be a day or two, sometimes a week. I'm saying it was, the news didn't travel around as fast as it does now. And one thing I learned is I had to watch some of the older people some of the other people who are the more mature people who had been involved. To see which way they go and why they did certain things. Some things I was told to do, and I didn't realize how important it was at the time. I was told to do something, and I said, well, I go do it. Right there in Birmingham, I was told to go to one of the rooms at the A.G. Gaston Motel and tell them that the State Patrol was outside. But YT Walker didn't want to go because they were watching him. So he just walked over. I'm sitting there at the table with some friends of mine, and he walked there. He didn't say, he said, come here, and he talked to me. He said, well, I want you to go around there and tell Andrew Young and Bernard Lee that the State Patrol was out here. But I didn't know the significance of that. The significance of that, they didn't want, they had an injunction for Dr. King, and they didn't want Dr. King to get arrested right then. But they had an injunction for me. I guess if they came inside the restaurant, they could have handed me mine. When I got home, there was one waiting for me, but I didn't understand the strategy of that until later on. And there are a lot of things that we did, and especially me, I learned from the tactics, and then I had to figure out why and ask why. I didn't think it was important. There wasn't no camera watching me doing this, and it's not even noted in the history. But I'm saying it was a very important move. They sent me on decoy demonstrations. I didn't understand what a decoy was. But also now I understand the significance of decoys and being very careful about how you move and when you move and what you move for. Not necessarily saying you wouldn't be right to do it, but sometimes you have to use strategy and thought behind what you do, and think about the outcome of what's going to the end results of what it's going to be. Okay, who's question back there?
Do you think that there is still work to be done from what you guys accomplished in the civil rights movement that just hasn't gotten done all these years later?
Yes.
I assume so.
All of the work is still there. All of the work is still there, and another thing is we have to learn that these things are repeating themselves. It's nothing new. All this stuff is not new. It's something repeating itself, and you have to go back in history to figure out that all of this stuff is just alike. The only difference is they're using different methods. Instead of the Ku Klux Klan wearing white sheets now, they're wearing white shirts and ties and suits, getting political positions and hiding in disguise. David Duke was an example of that. But we have to remember there were a whole lot of people copied him. And some of these people are in political positions to hurt us. Another thing is I learned throughout my life is that I'm for justice for everyone. Now, the thing about it is I am pro-black. I'm not anti-white, but I am pro-black because we need more than any group to get things done. One thing is our self-esteem, and that's a problem. It starts with the self-esteem. It starts from slavery on up. There were certain tactics that were used during slavery we lost the knowledge of our culture, we lost knowledge of our language, and most of all, we lost connection to our origin. All other ethnic groups can connect to their origin. The children can tell you about it. We're the only people, African Americans that is, are the only people who do not connect to our origins. Some of us don't even want to connect. That's just how bad it is. And you have to know and be proud of yourself before anyone else is going to be proud of you or respect you. So we need to start with knowledge too. And whites need to learn this stuff too, because it'll show you where the things are repeating themselves and how successful they've been in terms of having a group of people that's kind of lost to a certain degree. Anyone else? Yes. Yes.
So, I was curious if when you're doing civil rights work, if there was work you did with lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender activists, if there was collaboration. I mean, I know we had Bayard Rustin part of the movement, but I was wondering, was it hard for them to be visible? What was your experience?
Well, I wasn't at that stage then. I'm saying, you know, he was a great person to me. It had nothing to do with whatever his personal life was like. I respected him, and I appreciated him for what he, you know, for his participation, and for me to follow people who were basically civil rights activists for justice for everyone.